Hello, I'm pleased to provide a progress report in the implementation of the work program of IPBES up to 2030, and this presentation responds to requests in decision 7/1. So the global assessment of IPBES that was released in 2019 really marked the culmination of the first work program of IPBES. It brought an unprecedented level of awareness in the world regarding matters related to biodiversity, to nature's contribution to people. It also is inspiring up to this day a large number of different types of stakeholders to engage into new legislations or into new actions to really have an impact on the loss of biodiversity, and we are trying to track all of this impact through our impact tracking database on the IPBES website. During the first work program, IPBES established a strong knowledge base for decision making, in particular through the publication of these 8 assessment reports, as you see here, and they are a body of knowledge which is informing in particular the development of the post-2020 global biodiversity framework. So let's now go into the 6 objectives of the new IPBES work program, starting with objective 1, which is focused on assessing knowledge. I'm happy to report that we are on track with respect to the 3 ongoing assessments, with the methodological assessment on values to be considered next year by IPBES 9, as well as the assessment of the sustainable use of wild species, while the assessment of invasive alien species will be considered by IPBES 10 in 2023. Work on assessing knowledge also relates to the 3 new topics of the new work program of IPBES up to 2030, and work has been initiated on these 3 topics. A scoping report has been produced for topic 1, the nexus assessment, and a scoping report has also been produced for topic 2, the transformative change assessments. Both of these will be considered by IPBES 8 under item 7, and there are also little videos that have been produced that present these scoping reports. Work has also been initiated on topic 3, which would be a methodological assessment related to business and biodiversity. The scoping report meeting took place a couple of weeks ago, and the scoping report is currently in preparation for consideration by IPBES 9 next year. In addition to this, progress also includes the preparation of 2 workshop reports. One was produced and released in October 2020, and it analyzed the interlinkages between biodiversity and pandemics. And the second one is a co-sponsored workshop report prepared together with IPCC, which will be released very soon and ahead of IPBES 8. And finally, against this objective 1, I'm also showing here a slightly revised timeline for all of the assessments that are currently under production, with the nexus and transformative change now proposed as being 3-year processes, and the business and biodiversity assessment being proposed as starting a year later than envisaged, in order to not overload the IPBES community. Objectives 2 to 4 are being implemented by 5 IPBES task forces. As you will recall from decision 7/1, the plenary extended the mandate of 3 task forces on capacity building, on knowledge and data, and on indigenous and local knowledge, and it established 2 new task forces on policy support and on scenarios and models. It requested all of these task forces to develop and to update on a regular basis work plans, which would include specific deliverables. So all of these task forces met for the first time jointly. That was when this was possible back in 2019, and after that they've met separately and virtually to continue their work. They've all developed an interim work plan, which is presented to IPBES 8 under item 8 for consideration. And they've also prepared draft work plan for 22 and 23. And these, together with the deliverables, will be for approval by IPBES 9. So we'll now look into each one of these objectives and sub-objectives with the work performed by all of these 5 task forces, starting with objective 2 on building capacity. And progress here includes under objective 2A, the fellowship program, which continues to be one of the really popular project of IPBES. As you can see here, we now have a cohort of 92 fellows since IPBES started, selected out of more than 1,000 applications. So you can see that it's very popular, but also highly selective. And progress also includes science policy dialogues with national focal points, in particular in the context of the review of the 2 scoping reports for the Nexus and the transformative change assessments. And there the idea is always to strengthen the process to provide comments in order to increase the quality and the policy relevance of the future assessments. Under Objective 2B, the Task Force on Capacity Building has provided support to many of the uptake events focused in particular, of course, on the global assessment. There has been more than 100 of those. And under Objective 2C, the task force held a virtual 4th capacity building forum, and the focus was on the establishment of new national platforms, which are so crucial to translate and adapt the work of IPBES, particularly of its assessments, to national and subnational circumstances. Under Objective 3 now, which is on strengthening knowledge foundation. 3A focuses on work on knowledge and data, and the work on catalyzing the generation of new knowledge has progressed with further developing guidance, guidelines, template, also providing support to all of the authors who are starting assessments so that they understand the approach and start thinking already in the early stages of an assessment about knowledge gaps. And an approach has been developed and is going to be piloted now for dialogues, which will involve authors of assessments together with representatives of research funding agencies to discuss the gaps identified in IPBES completed assessments. On the data front, progress has included the publication of a very important document, the IPBES Data Management Policy. Support has been provided to all of the experts, particularly those in the assessments, for all of their data needs. It can be mobilizing data for an indicator or for producing maps or any type of data product. There is also an effort of the task force to look ahead on future assessments, and in particular exploring tomorrow's technology and the application of artificial intelligence and natural language processing in IPBES future assessments. Under Objective 3B, which is the work on indigenous and local knowledge, the bulk of the work continues to be the implementation of the approach to recognize and working with indigenous and local knowledge, which consists in organizing dialogue workshops between authors and indigenous peoples and local communities. That has been done for the 3 ongoing assessments. There has also been a compilation of key messages from the global assessment of relevance to indigenous people and local communities. And some further work has been done, as always, on guidance to continue to refine our approach. And one highlight, for example, is the work on the free, prior, and informed consent approach, which is now used in the dialogue workshops. I come to objective 4, which is on supporting policy. 4A is performed by the Task Force on Policy Support. And here there has been work to understand better how our different users make use of IPBES assessment. A survey has been applied to the community and responses analyzed. And a pilot dialogue has been organized with a focus on Africa, with always the same preoccupation, which is to better understand how the community uses IPBES assessments and IPBES products, with always in mind the idea of improving these assessments, of course. There has also been feedback provided by the task force to the external review, always with a focus on policy support. And finally, support has been provided by the task force members to the authors, particularly so that they are aware of the guidance that we have developed for assessing policy instruments in order for them to apply it in the context of their work on the assessment. Finally, this is the last task force here, focusing on models and scenarios on these two streams of work. Support has continued to be provided to the experts who are involved in assessments, particularly for the chapters that relate to scenarios and models. The task force also has provided comments each time there is an external review of an IPBES assessment drafts. And important work has been done on catalyzing the further development of models and scenarios. A Nature Futures framework has been developed, which IPBES 9 would be invited to consider once it has been further developed and consulted within the community. The task force also held a workshop to engage the broader scientific community in an effort to catalyze the production by this community of new scenarios and new models using the Nature Futures framework, so that they then become available in the future for the future work of IPBES. Objective 5 is about communication and engaging. There has been a very significant growth in the portfolio related to communication, as shown by all of the different types of indicators. There are a few that are shown here, such as the growth in traditional media. We've indicated an example here, which is IPBES tracking more than 50,000 individual online media articles between May 2019 and December 2020, but also huge growth in social media, in audience by 73% in 2019, and of course also continuing in 2020. All of that, of course, bolstered by the success of the global assessment. I've mentioned the impact tracking database already. We have tracked more than 400 impacts already on our website. But of course, this is not exhaustive, and we know that there is much more that is going out there. So we really rely on you to come to that website and to really inform this database, which is a collective effort of the IPBES-wide community. The communication team also came up with a little Nature Insight podcast series, which has been very popular and provides an opportunity to hear voices within the IPBES community that are perhaps lesser heard. I've already mentioned the dialogues with the national focal points in the context of the capacity building. And under Objective 5C, a lot of work has been done, continued to be done with the stakeholders to engage further stakeholders. And one highlight of this work is the second survey of stakeholders, and the information document 16 here provides an analysis of the more than 1,000 responses that were received in response to this survey. Objective 6 is the last objective of the new work program up to 2030. It is related to improving the effectiveness of the platform, and here work has taken place in two directions. The first one is to already start preparing for the next midterm review, and IPBES members will be consulted soon on this. And the second stream of work is to continue to address the recommendations from the first external review, and this will be considered under item 9 of the agenda, and that includes in particular a review of the use and impact of the IPBES conceptual framework. So that now ends my little quick review of all of the 6 objectives. I'm also happy, in addition, to report that the Committee on Conflict of Interest has reviewed all of the many disclosure forms from all of the new experts, the new members of the task forces, all of the people who have joined the IPBES work since IPBES 7. The committee didn't find any conflict of interest and has completed their report to IPBES 8. And finally, about Team IPBES here and about the recruitment of staff members to the Secretariat in the period from 2019 to 2020. You will recall that the Secretariat in Bonn is composed of 16 positions. That includes the 3 new posts that had been approved by IPBES 7, and 1 position needs to be filled following the recent departure of a team member, and all other recruitments have been performed. So with this, that concludes my quick update on progress in the implementation of the work program of IPBES up